Hey, this is Jon Schaffer, and you're listening to Podcast of the Wicked.
And welcome to Podcast of the Wicked. I am Bill.
And I'm Metal Rose.
With our guest.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
This is our guest, Sam, today. He's a big Iced Earth fan. A lot of you probably know him from some of the groups and the Iced Earth page. He puts a bunch of snarky comments sometimes. And
everyone's favorite heel, right?
That's right.
So, let's just start it off. What made you an Iced Earth fan, Sam?
Oh, man. Iced Earth, for me, goes back to about, I want to say 2002. Horror Show, I think, was what it was, 2001, 2002 when Horror Show came out. Something about that album got a lot of publicity, I think, maybe because of the drummer, the death guy being in the band. And it perked our ears up to it. We were already into like basic metal, like Slipknot and Black Sabbath, and the kind of stuff that most people our age were into that time. A little bit of new metal, a little bit of traditional metal, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden. So we noticed that this is a Metallica looking, Iron Maiden looking logo, so we picked it up and it like blew our fucking minds, dude. Like I still remember that day like it was yesterday. It was exactly like I'd always loved metal, but like I didn't like have the perfect band to me. Like you hear that sound, you're like, that's perfect. That's it. That's the it sound, And ever since then, it's just been, feverish following them. Like any shows that come around, we never missed a show. We started bands in their honor, and just just fanatic teenagers. My first tattoo was Iced Earth over my back. I'm not going to show that now, but when I was like 18, I think. So I've never lost interest. I've lost interest in a lot of metal over the years, but not Iced Earth at all. If anything, I like them more than ever. So
Nice.
just love Iced Earth. Harlow especially, but I love it all. I really don't hate any Iced Earth. If I dislike something in Iced Earth, it's still like 3-4 tiers above anything else. To put that in context, if I have anything negative to say about any Iced Earth anything, it's still usually 3 or 4 tiers above like something like even Metallica at this point in my life. I really hold them in very high regard in terms of music quality.
Nice.
That's rocking, man. Okay, sorry.
I got into Iced Earth through the Horror Show album myself.
Nice. It's a great album, honestly. Could be the best. A lot of debate. It's top 3, if not the top. It was so iconic for me and really trapped me in the band and just getting me to explore the whole discography. And my second album after that was Dark Saga. I was a Spawn fan, so that was an automatic. That was actually when I figured out we had the same last name. When I was going through the Dark Saga book and I saw John Schaeffer. Well, that's it's cool. That was another reason I like him on top of that because my own vanity. It's like you have that little connector at that age. So the more I dug in, the more I loved. Usually when you get obsessed with something, you burn out on it. And I've done it with tons of stuff where I just burn out and I just don't touch it ever again. Iced Earth is just, like I said, it just tickles that music itch for me, and it always will.
Nice.
There's such a variety. I think it's also probably because band members change hands and whatnot. That Horror Show album is awesome. Richard Christie is a great drummer. Maybe you're right. Some of the publicity came in because he was the death drummer. It's sad because Howard Stern controls Richard Christie's image, so he can't come on the podcast until he ends the contract with Howard Stern.
Yeah, so, Stern's a high level. You gotta just let that go until he's done with dealing with him. That's too far. No. You know what I mean? He's part of the system. In that regard.
Richard's a great guy. He's a buddy. I'm not like bothering about it. He's a buddy of mine, honestly. So like I was just like, hey, I know some guys. It was before I was doing my podcast. I was thinking about Chuck, and Jason. I said I know some guys that do a podcast. I know Chuck.
Right.
Have Richard on. He goes, you don't understand how much I want to do that, but I got to wait till the Stern show's over, just because that's in my contract. I can't do podcasts.
Yeah, shame their podcast too. I was friends with both of them until all that stuff went down, and they just folded right up.
I think Howard Stern radio talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Richard. I don't know. He never said one negative word to me about it though. But I don't know how it was handled on the Stern show. I don't think they spoke about it at all. But you know, he's just said kind and gracious things about John, which is, you know,
That's
not.
good.
You know,
Yeah.
he actually the one conversation we had, one of them, you know, when we were like, I presented him with a copy of The Glorious Burden as a gift, and he was telling a story about John getting mad at one of the band members. I don't know who, I can't remember, but and he goes, well, you know, I never had any problems, but John sure got angry at a lot of people. But then he followed it up with, well, because they were unprofessional.
Right. I mean, even at my level, I can relate to that. You deal with people like that, and if you're trying to be serious, and most people aren't, honestly. You know, the farther you get away from the city, it's just like that, and you get tired of dealing with that for a while because you're really, you know, you're dumping money, you're dumping your time, your future. It's a big risk, you know. Even in the '80s and stuff, to go all in on music like that, to not take it seriously is, you know, you're gonna starve basically if you don't.
Yeah.
It's hard enough if everything goes perfectly. You still have all that competition to deal with, so it's not easy, and I can certainly relate to what, you know, the frustrations of trying to make that stuff work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I wanted to say that John said that he's going to be releasing Sons of Liberty here soon on vinyl. So I wanted to ask, how did you wind up in the We the People video?
Oh, now that's a really well. Obviously, I go to every Icer show, so that's really what did it. But the timing of it was really interesting because I had just gotten out of the military the day before they came. They came 9/11, 2010, and I was out on convalescent leave 9, 10, 20, you know, the day before, literally. So it was like my celebration, getting out there. I'm free, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, we go to the show. It's the Escape from the Studio tour, I think. It's got Barlow. It was like one of Barlow's last shows in America, so it was really important to see that, you know. And they did Iced Earth. They had Sons of Liberty opening up for Iced Earth. And that's actually where I met Matt, too. I met him after the show. Matt O'Rourke, I believe his name is, that played for Sons of Liberty. And John actually openly invited the entire crowd to come to that event the next day. And because I still had friends living in D.C., I was like, well, fuck, I'm staying the night at my buddy's house. And we're good, you know. And at the time, to be honest, I didn't know anything about Illuminati and globalism. I was just a dumb infantry boy, you know. But John Schaeffer, you know, so I was like, fuck yeah. And so, you know, I started with Sons of Liberty is really what got me into the political side of things, because I was such an Iced Earth fan that it caused me to like, what's going on with this? And so, you know, the next day we went out and we joined them, and me and John hit it off real good. And we just started talking. Like you probably see us in the video. We're still chatting, like, because I'm curious, what is this all about? You know, I'm like trying to get the Reader's Digest version of, you know, what Sons of Liberty was in terms of what was it saying about globalism and politics and blah blah blah. Because I was just ignorant, honestly. I just didn't know. I was too busy following orders and stuff. So, and you know, lo and behold, they were filming the whole time. So eventually, they chopped those the Iconics. He invited us to go to a protest on 9/11 in DC. Actually, to counter Fox at the time, because Fox was doing something, and we were going there to protest something Fox was doing and something the Obama administration had done too. I think a lot of it was the 9/11. Like we were trying to talk about the 9/11 cover up.
Yeah.
Was trying to act like it wasn't, like basically like it wasn't. Fox was being fake conservative and saying, hey, this is, you know, and I believe, you know, there was a lot of, at that time, that was the only thing I knew about in terms of conspiracies was 9/11, because in my unit, there were people that were still left over in Fort Myer that went to the Pentagon, because the Pentagon was right outside of my base in DC, and cleaned up the wreckage from the 9/11, you know, the airplane. And they said it wasn't. Lots of guys with firsthand experience said this is not an airplane. These were pieces of, you know, small pieces of shrapnel. You know, basically, it's all they said. It was like a missile or a bomb that hit it. And I thought they were insane, because I never even thought the government was like that. So there was like that ground level of the Pentagon being weird about the Pentagon. And then me and John just kind of, once we got there, we're just, you know, back and forth about about all of it, you know, so much to come to. And we were trying to, like, say we got maybe an hour conversation in of us just, I was just going it up, you know. I was only able to stay for probably 3 hours. I think they ended up being there all day. I'm not sure who all was there. It was like about 15 of us. They stayed at the protest all day. There's like, Hell's Angels and all kinds of bikers, and
Wow.
it was a huge like 9/11 thing anyways, and we were trying to be Sons of Liberty within that.
Nice.
Admittedly, I didn't even hardly understand what Sons of Liberty was at the time. I very much am in support of it now, because the moment I went home, I was like, keyboard warrior, going down the rabbit hole, and I found Alex Jones and all that other stuff, and interviews and conspiracies, and it just it rapid fired into a million different things, and
I understand that.
A year or two later, they just popped up out of nowhere with the Sons of Liberty video, and I just saw that beginning snippet, and I saw myself, and I was like, oh my god, oh, TV. So I bragged about that for
cool.
10 years. Sorry if I ramble a little bit. I'm just very excited to relive that. It's a very big part of my life.
No, not at all. Absolutely. I mean, I'm really excited, like, just to hear all of that stuff. I would love, to have an hour-long conversation with John about 9/11. Like, I used to watch so much of that footage. I don't even mean to like side rant about that, but when it first all happened, I was, I'm only about 30 minutes outside of New York City. And so you could see everything. You could see all of the smoke from the Twin Towers.
Right.
And I watched them replay that footage over and over again. And I just kept thinking, something's not right with this. Something's not right. But, I couldn't really pinpoint it. And, I was 17 years old when it happened. So I was in school. And a lot of the people in school thought I was a jerk because I was like, something's off about this. And then about a month later, there was a concert going into the city, and I said, well, I'm just going to have to, like, get over being nervous about going into the city and just go to the concert. And people thought I said that I wanted to get over 9/11. It was really misconstrued, but it was because it kind of just went with, something's off about this. I can't really pinpoint what, but something feels off. It feels like, maybe an inside job or something. And
right.
But I didn't say inside job at the time. I just started feeling less faith in our country, and everybody else started getting more patriotic. Not that I wasn't patriotic.
It was weirdly patriotic at the time. Then looking back at it, it was like
I didn't want to say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore for a couple of weeks. I was like, whoa, I don't want to do this every day. They're lying to us. And I really, again, I wasn't saying inside job. I wasn't saying any of that stuff, but I was like, something's really off. I don't feel patriotic at all. And then, the week after, they're like, let's all dress up with, red, white, and blue clothes and, act like we love the country. I mean, I still did it, but it was just weird to me how, suddenly everybody loved the United States when right before that, everyone was trashing it too. It just seemed kind of, they hated President Bush at the time. I mean, I didn't love him either, but it was just a really weird time period,
Yeah.
Unforgettable time period, though. When it happened. And I'll never forget the hours of research I put in, even when it first happened, and even now. And I hate to even admit this, but the best coverage was from the Stern show on 9/11.
Oh yeah.
I left school, and it was the best coverage because it was just a bunch of regular guys calling in and telling everybody what they saw.
Right, in real time, before anyone had a chance to get the handle on it, and be like, oh, you can't say that, you can't.
Yeah, that's why the coverage was really unforgettable. They've actually done retrospectives on it, and he stayed, all day. He didn't leave at his normal time. Howard actually stayed on the air all day, so the only reason I listen to him now is because of Richard, to be honest with you. But
I do too. I tune in every once in a while just to see if he has any drum parts or something, because I'm a huge Death fan also. Before high school, they were one of my top. I started this kind of crushed all music for me when it came out, when I looked at that horror show. But Death definitely led me to Iced Earth, and I love Richard Christie. So still respect for him and what he's doing up there, but I'd like to see him back in a real band,
Yeah, I mean, Charred Walls of the Damned is great with Ripper and everybody, but he hasn't done that in a while.
Best Ripper album that's not like Iced Earth, like other than Glorious Burden, like Charred Walls is good stuff.
Yeah, there's 3 of those albums, so
Yeah, oh yeah.
Crazy stuff. He always says the second one was rushed. What's your favorite Iced Earth album? Is it Horror Show, Dark Saga, or is it just something totally different?
I think it's weird how you want to classify the best, I guess. For me, the best, ironically, even though I'm not a huge fan of the newest stuff, like the biggest fan, the Dystopia album itself, lyrically and the riffs, probably my favorite album, honestly, which is weird because I don't particularly care for the vocals, obviously. That's one of my controversial takes, but I love that album. I would love to see a Barlow version. I know he did like Days of Purgatory like that. To me, that's like peak Iced Earth for me, like Dystopia with like Barlow. But Horror Show definitely. I love Donnie's Inferno. Burnt Offerings.
Yeah.
Every album Barlow's done, I love. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick one. Glorious Burden's amazing.
You're kind of picking one from each era in a way.
What's that?
You're kind of picking one from like each era of Iced Earth,
because they're so different too. Like the Barlow era, it's its own thing. I kind of look at it like that. Like, from the Ripper era, I definitely like Glorious Burden. Out of the Steu era, I love Dystopia. Out of both Gene and Greeley's albums are fantastic. I love all that stuff. So it's hard to say I have to give it to Horror Show, I think, because it was just such that ground level. Between Horror Show, Dark Saga, and Glorious Burden, I think those are the 3 I go back to even today the most for even nostalgia or just that. Glorious Burden is a big part of what convinced me to join the military. I got so overwhelmingly patriotic when because at the time I didn't think any 9/11 stuff was I was totally like George Bush, because my parents were, and I was just followed them on to war, followed the marching drums on to war until, like I said, I got to my actual unit, and they were like, "No, this is an inside job." My own unit was telling me this shit was an inside job because they had people cleaning up the wreckage. By the time I was in, it'd been 5 years, but people were still, 5-10 years ago, they were privates at the time, and they were probably E7s when I got in and were telling me these stories, and I thought they were fucking stupid. And it took me all that research after talking to John and the Building 7 stuff and all this. It just had it was like, it was horrifying for me to like kind of come to terms with that, like, because again, it seems so insane that it can't be true, but it's like the prove this stranger than fiction. I've kind of just accept that. That's just the way it is.
The only reason like my face even lights up when you say that stuff, because it's just like, it's when you hear military personnel and all these different people saying things like that, it's just like, okay, I'm not crazy.
No, there's definitely the Pentagon. I can say from first-hand experience, from being friends with these witnesses, they have no reason to tell me. Like I had no hat in the game of conspiracy theories or anything, and that's all they would talk about. They were obsessed with. You could tell like it got into their brains. Like some of them were ate up with it. You know what I mean? They're like, no, you don't understand. It wasn't an airplane. I'm like, okay. Like I just didn't. My brain, my tiny little private brain just didn't care. Like I had so much of my own world. You get your own blinders on for your own life, and you just I didn't have time to process, global conspiracies and, the government really doesn't like us. And, big shock.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. It's a lot to process for sure.
And I came from a family that was very, Republican blue pill. As long as you vote red, we'll be fine, and everything will be the Lord will take care of you. And the Lord puts everyone in government for a reason, and we just trust everybody. And it was very like just pay your taxes and work hard at the factory, and you'll be fine. And it's like for that to like be unraveled, it was definitely the Neo Matrix thing. Kind of a tired cliche now, but that's really what it was like. It was like waking up to a whole different planet. It was just. Still to this day, I get like almost disassociative about it because it's just so like, wow, is that really what it is? But I mean, the facts are out there. You can't ignore it. I mean, you can if you want to. Lots of people choose to every day. Like I think at this point, if you don't believe those things, you're choosing the blue pill, and that's fine. That's your deal. But
yeah,
it's so much evidence.
Yeah, it's your right to put the blinders on for sure.
Right. If you want to put them on, that's fine. Whatever, man. Like just kind of stay out of my way, I guess. But
do you have any comments, Bill? I just don't want you to I'm trying to get you in on it too.
Oh no, not really.
Okay.
I was just gonna say though, I mean, it's kind of going, kind of well, I wouldn't say, but so you really don't think that was a plane that ran into the buildings?
Well, I don't know for sure, but I know what my battle mates had told me, which is just that the wreckage that they were recovering were just small little tiny pieces of metal, and that's it. Like nothing even resembling an airplane, and the potential of that an airplane actually hitting the Pentagon and having nothing resembling an airplane to these people, to me, is just, again, even at the time, I didn't believe it. I was just like, okay, whatever.
So you're talking about the Pentagon, though. You're not actually talking about the trade towers.
No, I have no contact with the trade towers. It's purely based on the Pentagon and the first accounts of, because I was in a unit called the Old Guard, and they were responsible for wreckage cleanup at the Pentagon, a lot of the privates. And so they had, if sorry if I didn't provide that context, but they had that firsthand on the grounds, picking up this trash with their hands, putting it in, whatever disposal. And this was 5 years before I was in, so there's a chance that there's a handful of them that just lie. I mean, it's a possibility, but that if everything else that's happened after that is only added to me believing, like they were right. They weren't lying to me. They weren't crazy. Maybe they were, but the evidence sure does stack up over time. To me.
mean, I don't want to get on a different topic, but I had a friend, my dad's friend, that was in the military.
Automatic with John, that kind of stuff is almost attached to him now, to some degree.
Yeah. But my dad's friend who was in the military, apparently, I mean, I don't know why they would lie. This is basically my point.
That's my thing. Like, why would they lie to me?
He told me that he had been to Area 51 and he had seen the bodies of the aliens, like the Roswell aliens, and he said that they had plant-like skin. Their skin was almost like a plant-like matter. It looked like to him, and they had very big eyes, and I don't want all right, he was a little out there. Sometimes he would stare at the moon and stuff like that. But that was,
if you'd seen something like that, you'd probably lose your mind a little bit too. I mean, I can't imagine actually seeing a physical. If that's the case, I'd probably be.
and I just, the story was so real. And then he used to call me and he'd be like, "Hey, unfortunately he passed away. I wish he could come on the show," but he would be like, "Hey, can you print me up everything you can find on Roswell?" And I think the year was 1943. And he was like, "Find me everything historic that happened that year." And he would call me all the time, and then I would get on the internet because he didn't want to have the internet. He was too paranoid.
Yeah. I don't blame him. I mean, I just kind of give up on the surveillance thing.
So I just 1947. I apologize. 1947. I just wanted to make sure because I hate saying the wrong thing. But in 1947, he had me print up everything historic that happened that year and everything. And I just don't know why he would lie about that. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay, like I said, a little weird. He looks into the sky.
Right.
But maybe he's looking into the sky because he saw what he saw,
Yeah, I mean, who knows? So I don't. There's too many of them telling too many of the similar story. If it's a lie and there's 4 different people telling you the lie, it tends to get, like playing the game of telephone. The thing gets all messed up and the story gets combined. But it was always the same. They always had the same exact thing. So again, at the time, didn't believe them. After the deep dive,
Yeah.
This is off topic on Ice Earth. We would go this
a little bit, but I think
it's kind of connected now, so you might as well just own it. But
I think John would appreciate the conversation. We got off the topic of Ice Earth, and we were discussing a lot of the stuff that was going on during COVID. So
right, yeah. So it is what it is. It's all connected. We're all connected.
So I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but right before we got into the whole discussion about 9/11 and the Roswell aliens, you mentioned that you're not really the biggest fan of the most recent singer, Mr. Steu Block, and do you have any reason for that, or?
Well, first and foremost, it's just a matter of preference. I just didn't like the way his originally his vocals set in the mix of Dystopia. Coming off of Barlow, I was a little grumpy that Barlow kind of like was gone again, coming off the 2008 Crucible Man. And then I was, excited for Dystopia. And, the timing for the topic of the album was great. And it came out and I loved it at first, but it was like, I could tell I was forcing myself to love it. You know what I mean? Like I loved it, but it was like, because the riffs were so good and the lyrics were so good. And there's still a lot to love about that era. You know what I mean? And then, I think shortly after that, didn't they do Live in Kurion?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They did Live in Kurion, and I listened to that thinking I was going to get a Live in Athens, which is maybe my expectations were stupid. I don't know. But Live in Athens is like probably my favorite album if you had to pick one, because it's like a greatest hits of Live, and it's amazing. But I listened to Live in Kurion, and I just was like, this isn't it for me. Like it just didn't have that. It was the first singer out of all of them that was just like, he sounds good. Like he's not a bad singer. He hits the notes. It's something about the tone or the mix or something. Maybe it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I aged out. I was thinking maybe I'm just not an Iced Earth fan anymore. Maybe I've finally gotten, I had like almost an existential crisis dealing with that originally. So like, it's all really predates any kind of drama about Steu in the modern era. Yeah, I just, and I learned, I still bought every album. Plagues I bought Incorruptible. Still love, Seven-Headed Horror. Probably one of my favorite Iced Earth songs with Steu on it. Yeah. I think that specific song captured what Steu should have been for me, anyways, as a listener. Like Steu on Seven-Headed Horror was like, mwah. I was like, this is it. I was actually looking forward to maybe a fourth Steu album. Finally, I finally got myself like, well, if they're more like Seven-Headed Horror, man, I'm in there. I'm back in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I want to be part of the fandom. I want to be rooting there with them. And I was just like a little disappointed that it was, I just wasn't as into him as Barlow. Because Barlow, I mean, to be fair to Steu, like Barlow is Barlow. How can you compete? But
somebody described Steu Block to me they were like, well, I mean, he's really talented, but he's just so comic book. She said to me, the girl.
the few things early on that concerned me about him, especially since I'd gotten into politics by then, was I know the kind of circles he ran with from my own interactions with the music community, and these basically Canadian theater kids. They do like little horror movies together, and they're metal, and they're super anti-American commies. Hate capitalism. That's the kind of place he comes from as a culture. So that was concerning when I found out, because he dresses just like him. You look at the way he dressed, the aesthetic he presented was their aesthetic. So either he was LARPing off of that group, or he was from them, which made me go, is this going to be right for Iced Earth? This guy that's from this, he might not personally be communist. I don't know his beliefs, and I'm not claiming I do, but
yeah,
that area is absolutely the worst, and probably in the whole world, honestly. Like in terms of like intolerant, like leftist, blah blah blah. Seattle in Canada, right above Seattle. That part is just awful. It really is. If you're not as far left, they're always pushing it farther left to try to out left each other too. So it's like you can't even. It was concerning to me, that somebody from that community was now the singer of Iced Earth, and I'm just like, ugh. So now how much?
I wonder how much he even felt the songs he was singing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, nobody can really tell. The worst thing with Steu, for me, is that he was cheering John on, and then he just pulled out of it. Like, it was just really strange to me.
When that happened, it brought back those memories of my initial red flags, because I kind of just buried that, like, whatever. I don't know Steu. I don't know those people.
Sure, that's fair.
They're still better than 90% of metal out there, anyways. Even with a singer that I don't love, it's not all about Sam. John's doing what he's doing, and it's all good. And I've come to a good place with it by the time this actually all happened. All this, January 6th shit happened. I was kind of back in Steu's corner, he was never going to be Barlow, but that was fine. And I was just kind of made my peace with it, But then, the whole, like, we're rooting for John, and then, like, throws him under the bus the next day. It was like, oh, there it is. There it is, It was like, aha, I knew it. Because everyone in that community, from my perspective, because I was friends with all these people at the time, because we were, we had a record deal going on with Greece, and they're all with the Canadians, and instantly every single person in that group was putting up anti-John posts. I mean, I saw like 300 anti-John posts immediately before they even got the story. It was literally like a call to arms, basically. It was like they were putting out signatures, so like, hey, we're all on the same team, and the guy I'd hired to do my lead guitar work for some of my songs on my album, he was from Canada, and it pissed me off because we had just finished our album, and he was up there putting anti-John shit on his wall, so I was like, what the fuck? So I kind of had concerns about even like, is John going to see this and think I'm some kind of anti, iced earth fucking, kind of a whatever. So this is a fucking mess. It caused a great, it instantly, when that happened, the metal community split right in half. Whatever was left of conservatism got cut out completely.
I literally had people saying, like, because I just, it wasn't right at that point, but I had just kind of gotten into iced earth. I heard stuff. I'm sure you've heard my story. I've heard things, and then my friend bought me the Incorruptible album, which was the first album I ever owned by Iced Earth, which the last one that they did. And then he took me to see Demons and Wizards a couple of years later, and so I was really just getting into John, and I had just gone in with him to purchase that Schaefer Barlow project thing on Kickstarter, and then all this craziness happened, and I just wanted to know more, but I had people going, "You must condemn him." For what?
Well, that's exactly what happened with our record label. We were signed to No Remorse at the time, Knights of the Forge was, and this was in the wake of after he had done what he'd done. Things had passed for probably about a year, and people kind of, because nobody knew what was going to happen yet. It was kind of a lot of uncertainty, so people kind of were quiet about it. And then, as soon as he came up with charges, it was like my label was like, "Hey, we've got all these people coming out and saying that you're a John." And I was worried they were going to come after me for other stuff, honestly, because that's how that group of people are. And I'm, very spicy on the internet. I'm openly conservative. I'm all the things you're not supposed to be in metal, and I don't fucking care who knows it. I don't hide it, and I'm proud of it. Proud that I don't hide it. You know what I mean? Like. And everyone was fine with that. That's just kind of known, like my group was known for that, and it was fine up until January 6th. Then it was like we needed to sacrifice somebody. So they had this big mock thing on the No Remorse site about, it was like something like 13 people that were had 20 something alt accounts, and they were just posting spam posts, cancel them, we hate them, trying to make it like it was this huge number of people, and it was you go to the accounts and you can tell they're all burner accounts. It was just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah,
they wanted to sort of sacrifice us because these horrible John supporters, these conservatites, the community has always looked down on conservatives anyways, and this was just their chance to finally fucking take a big old shit in our mouths, and they did. and I don't regret it. I loved every second of it, to be honest. In terms of them being that bothered by it, because I'm a nobody. I'm not. My band isn't. I'm not a big budget. Look at this is my studio. When I'm not in. I go to another studio too that I record at, but all my magic and my initial pre-production stuff happens right here. So I'm not some kind of fancy,
sure,
nepotism people that have $1 bazillion and they're just burning the oil, making music, because they got too much money.
I got a weird question for you there, Sam. Well, not weird, but okay. Now, are you a believer? I mean, just. In Christ?
Christ? Oh, no.
Okay. No. The reason why I'm asking is, and it's nothing like don't think I'm going weird with this or nothing, but I just feel like I think one of the reasons why they go after conservatives so much is because I would say probably about 85% of most conservatives are kind of Christian or at least believe or something other like that right there. So they kind of have these core beliefs, you know what I'm saying, of what's right, what's wrong.
Well, the community in the metal industry, I was raised Christian by two preachers, and even in my early music was Christian music until about really around 2010, where I walked away from the faith for basically logical reasons. Part of me searching and finding what I found to be just more blue pill control crap, pay your taxes to Caesar. And I'm not going to get into my religious journey or anything, but
yeah,
we are known as being Christian adjacent. We have a song called Crusader's Curse that's very pro-Christian. I mean, I'm not anti-Christian by any stretch of the imagination. I prefer to be mistaken for a Christian than an atheist, because atheists are fucking retards. Usually, not always. I'm not trying to, but that's usually how it is. They don't think. I don't know really what I believe specifically. I know that I don't know shit, and I'm okay with that. That's where I'm at with it right now. I don't think I don't think many man religions have it right. I don't know. There's no way to really verify. And I guess that's why I call it faith. There's no way to verify any of this, and it's just hard for me to wrap my head around it because I have to verify everything now because everything's been a lie. So why am I going to just randomly believe any religion at this point without some kind of a verification process? Like if I'm going to change my whole life around, I need something tangible, and that's just where I'm at with it. And it's, again, my mom and dad are both devout Christians. I know my brother's a Christian, no issue with Christians whatsoever. It's just, I see it being more of a stifling entity and a more of a controlling entity in the way that it's practiced in our culture anyways. It's used to keep you quiet. It's used to keep you obedient. It's used to keep you from not fighting, keep you paying your taxes. I can't get down with any of that. So that's just where I'm at with that.
Well,
That's fair.
I agree and disagree, but that's the cool thing about people. We can agree and disagree. Don't have to be all crazy about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
No. The only reason I was saying was because, see, like, I just kind of have this thing to where it's like, if you follow Christianity, it tells you about how you're supposed to love your neighbor and treat people like you would want to be treated and all this stuff like this right here. And, it's more of kind of a moral based goodness thing. And I know people have used Christianity for a lot of the wrong things over the years and stuff. And I get that. And I don't, I don't say that there's not bad parts of Christianity because of how people have manipulated and used it and everything. I totally understand that. It's just, I think sometimes that the reason why they go after conservatives so much is conservatives have this belief that you're supposed to love your neighbor, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, and all this stuff. And these people out here, they just don't give a shit about no damn body, because the first time you disbelieve in anything they believe in, they throw you under the bus quicker than anybody else. And that's why I kind of think the reason why they go after conservatives.
Yeah, it is an antichrist cult. I mean, you call it a spade a spade. Like, whether or not the devil and Christ are real, they believe it, and Christians believe it. So we have this battle going on regardless, and that's kind of, and me being even Christian adjacent, having Christian ties, they'll still call you a Christian even if you denounce Christ or whatever. It's to them, you're so far away from our cult that we're fucking done with you, And I agree that it's, being a Christian will not help you, and being a conservative obviously don't. But yeah, the Christian side of it is the bulk of why they attack you. But ultimately, you just have to agree with them regardless. I mean, anyone that disagrees with them is going to be an enemy, period. At this point, it didn't used to be that way, but that's the way it is now.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if this is a redundant question, but how has Iced Earth's music made an impact on your life? And even furthermore, how has Jon Schaffer's music made an impact on your life?
It's something about it. I've always really connected with it, and almost not the psychic level, but it had something more. It would do something to my brain that nothing else would, where I felt, like I say, connected. People talk about that all the time, I guess, but and he always had truth. I think the truth in his music. He's always been a man of truth, and that's always my motto. Is I don't care what the truth is. I just want to live in the truth.
Yeah.
To me, you know what I mean? I need to be proven the truth. I can't take anyone's opinion anymore because everyone's a liar and everyone's got some kind of agenda, and I don't believe anything now. And I'm at a kind of rebuilding phase internally, and I've always found Iced Earth, even if I don't agree with this or that, he always speaks his truth. You know what I mean? And he always looks for the truth. So
yeah.
I don't fault him for finding Christ through all this. I can see him. It is a satanic cult coming after him, so it's easy to be like, oh, well, Christ is the answer. So I mean, I no shade whatsoever. I totally get it, and I still I support him, and I support it. He can release a fully Christian album. Like I said, being brought up in that, I have no issues as long as the music's good, as long as it's Iced Earth. It'll continue to be something that I connect with because it's still to me. There are universal truths in Christianity, anyways. Regardless, like he was saying, the morality: don't kill your neighbors, don't rape people.
Yeah. Respect
each other's property. There's a lot of stuff about property and just not stealing, and all that stuff is good societal norms to have. Those are healthy societal norms, and so as long as you're not one of the people out there abusing it, and I can pick that out. That's kind of like my special power. I can pick out the charlatan Christian from a mile away, being raised up in probably 7 different denominations. You know, then there's like 45,000 different denominations. So you get saying Christian is almost like not even fair to the person you're talking about, because it can mean 45,000 different things. So, you know, I wouldn't mind picking his brain as to where he falls in on all that, because I've been exposed to about every theological theory that, you know, the Nephilim and all that stuff, the flat Earth, everything that ties into it. Curious as to where he falls on that, you know. So I definitely wouldn't mind, you know, one day picking his brain on where where in Christianity is he, not just specifically, you know, Christ himself, but like that can mean so many things. So many,
Yeah,
you know.
that would be a really, really interesting conversation to delve into, like, you know, where his belief system is at. I think that's a really great idea.
I'm curious. I mean, it isn't going to affect how I feel about him. I just, as raised that way, my inquiring mind just wants to know, like, where are you in that Christian journey, and what is, you know, what are you finding to be true out of the theories that are out there? Because there's no solidified Christian doctrine, really. There's not. It's so many different interpretations of the Bible, and interpretations of theology, and, you know, what's good for one brand isn't good for the other. So I mean, it can mean so many different things.
That definitely is interesting. That's definitely an interesting conversation. So tell me more about that controversy with your band's album where you put Free John Schaeffer on the back of the album. Am I right about that? I still have to pick it up.
We never physically released it. We put it out digitally on everything, almost as an explanation of being dropped, because they dropped us, like I mentioned earlier. It wasn't so much that we put Free John Schaeffer on the back of it. It was the fact that we were just Stur supporters, right?
Okay.
Well, there wasn't a specific. I mean, I did put Free John Schaeffer on the back of it. I think the one they saw was on my profile picture. I had Free John Schaeffer on it, and that's what they were so detached from the creative process. They didn't even know it was on the album. I don't think they didn't even look. But
I feel like you invented that moniker too. I feel like.
Maybe, I don't know.
I didn't see it before you.
A lot of people were like, "Well, he's already free." It's like, dude, he's not free if he's, you know, under house arrest. That's not free. That's horrible. You know, it's definitely better than being in like solitary confinement, but it's not much different. You know, it's.
Well, even with the lawsuit after the sentencing, he was still not free until that lawsuit got dropped.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're not out of the woods with that stuff. They get their claws in you in that legal system, man. It's slow and it's painful and it's tedious, you know.
It is. But so what happened with all of that? They dropped you off their label, and then what? Like,
at first it was they'd announced us on their site, right? And then the people, like the manufactured outrage was immediately followed. And then they emailed us saying, you know, we're looking into this, we're investigating, basically to say, are you a John Schaeffer supporter? And I was like, you know, I told him honestly, like, I don't agree with what he did as like being the best decision, but, you know, I'm not against him being upset against the government. I'm not upset against, you know, like, I think it's obvious, it was obviously a trap and he probably shouldn't have fallen for the trap. But beyond that, he's done nothing wrong to me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
anything bad there? He didn't harm anybody. You know, I'm not going to stop listening to this band because you guys don't like him anymore. For me, it would make the least sense of any band for me to just be like, oh, fuck Iced Earth, you know, like. I
remember that whole entire thing because I was following you, and then I was following the No Remorse Records, so I remember the announcement and how crazy that whole section blew up, and it was just so strange.
It was the only. We had everything in place to drop because I kind of suspected that, like I said, that people were going to come after us. And so when they, and right as they had told me in an email that we were off the label, I just released the album immediately on everything. And we shot a line out to Razorfist actually, and he just mentioned us, like one sentence, he mentioned us in a live stream, and we got like 30,000 streams. We made like $3,000 on the album from just the Razorfist and supporting us, and that was beautiful. Honestly, it was really, you know. But then, like but they don't tell you, it's like after the council thing happens and everyone goes back to their normal lives. That was it. Like we made our little money back, you know, and we got our views, and then it was just done. Like it was like the algorithm drops you out from underneath you, and it's like, okay, bye, we're done with you. So that's the part that probably sucks the worst. Is like, you know, especially I'm a family man, and I can't really, you know, I can't go out and support the album by grinding on tour. You know.
Of course.
Not unless I know it's going to pay bills. Like and in this case, it probably wasn't. It was going to be like I need to go cultivate fans, and it just like that was it. So once the smoke kind of cleared from the No Remorse thing, we actually got another offer from Storm Spell, and I don't know if they were just trying to throw salt in the wound because they acted like they were interested, and I was like, look, you need to sign a tortious interference clause if I'm going to sign on with you guys, which is to say that no matter what anybody says on the internet, you can't drop us over some allegations on the internet. And they immediately dropped us after that. They're like, no, we don't want that. We don't want no part of that. We don't want your drama king. So I was like, all right. And it felt great to stand up for Iced Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ultimately, the only part that sucks is like after that Storm Spell offer, it was kind of like, now I'm on the blacklist, and I'm I know it's over. Basically, it's unless I do self releases and all that stuff, it's just.
Yeah, you're gonna just have to do stuff yourself, honestly. And it's better off. I'm not. It sucks that labels or whatever. Are you blacklisted? My friends, one of my friends knows people at No Remorse Records, and he was looking at you, and he goes, "I don't know. I better not touch this." So I don't know. He was thinking about it though. He was thinking about it because I was like, dude, I've never seen such crap in my life, and he was looking at it. He goes, "No, you're not even wrong." Like, I don't know. I probably shouldn't get involved. And he does all this extreme metal stuff. So.
Exactly. The people that are afraid to touch me now are the people that will do like dying fetus and count of decapitation and all these gory like awful. Exactly. That's perfectly fine. They have all the artistic protection in the world, but you say free Jon Schaeffer. Eesh.
He didn't so much care. He would have had you on the label.
It's the fact that I like Iced Earth that does me in is a kind of a relief. Honestly, it's like, okay, I can tell the grandkids about that, right?
Hey, I got something I want to ask.
Oh, sorry. I think he would have had you on the label with free Jon Schaeffer if he didn't know those people. I'm telling you.
I'm finna throw something crazy in here, right?
All right.
Let's say John Schaeffer had went to the BLM riots, right?
Right.
And let's say he, broke some windows and, helped burn down some businesses and stuff like that. Do you think he would?
And we have to say that he ran away with a TV.
Yeah, and
a Target too. So.
And let's say he had got caught with a brick in his hand. Do you think he would have been considered a hero?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's not even. That's an easy question, man. It's rules for thee and not for me kind of a thing. They get their own set of rules over on that side of the aisle, and that's kind of where the problem is and why I'm done dealing with those kind of people is because they live by their own bullshit standards. They can do whatever the fuck they want as long as it's in the name of whatever is socially acceptable at the time. And what John did was literally nothing. Yeah. He did fucking nothing. That's why they say, John, Razor said that shit. John did nothing. He didn't. What did he do? He was in a building.
Did you see the video I released on my YouTube page?
Oh, yeah.
It's like slow-mo. He kind of like, there's some confusion, and like this one guy gets a hold of a police officer, and then John like pulls two guys back and then yells something. And like, is that this is what we're, what? Like, I don't know.
I may be wrong, and maybe I'm way off in my comparison of this, right? But I told somebody one time, I said, something, if you look at January 6th, the January 6th wasn't nothing but the Boston Tea Party in a Capitol instead of on a boat.
That's pretty much it. I mean, there's no, our government's corrupt and people are tired of it. I mean, what do you have to do? I might get in trouble for saying this, but if anything, I'm upset he didn't go in there and put an end to a couple of those motherfuckers because, all that Epstein Island stuff, if that stuff's true, man, those people deserve to hang.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. And I don't, it blows my mind that the heavy metal community is defending these fucking people just because it's their side of the aisle. It's fucking retarded. Like, I don't know what other word to say. I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to say that word, but it's fucking retarded.
Don't worry. One of my friends plays a retarded puppet on TV, so we're grandfathered in.
We're good. All right. Say free space zone, right?
Yeah.
But it is. I mean, it's so stupid. It melts my brain, man.
Me too. So this is the last question I have for you, but if you have anything you want to add, of course, the floor is open. But I know you're a very opinionated fan of the band.
Right.
A lot of people are put off by this, but what would you say to those people?
I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a cool person in real life, then we're cool people. We'll be cool. Like, if you don't like me, oh well. Like, I call it. I try to call it like I hear it. I try to be unbiased. I try to be as blunt and honest as I am about whatever it is. I'm not into secrets and hiding shit. I'm an open book. So you at least know I'm being genuine. I'm always being, genuine, or I'm just goofing. If I'm not goofing around and I'm trying to be silly or something. But take my opinion with a grain of salt. My opinion doesn't have to be correct. I'm okay with being wrong. It doesn't, that's like a weird thing. People think just because I have the opinion that they must believe it also. And I don't care if you believe it or not. I mean, who am I to decide? Especially with music. Music is so subjective. I'm not the definitive, opinion haver of Iced Earth. You're allowed to have your own opinions. I'm sure John would love everyone to have their own opinions and not listen to Sam about, what he thinks about Steu on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, just listen to the albums. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, then you don't. It's pretty simple.
Yeah,
I'd like to be friends with everybody if we can. I'm not trying to make enemies. But I'm not going to sugarcoat anything either.
Yeah, I feel you there. Like, I have mixed reviews from people in the Iced Earth community too. So it is what it is,
There's always going to be haters and people that are sensitive, and I'm not even mad at that any of those people exist. It's just part of the human experience.
Yeah, live and let live, whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Just that I hope that the heavy metal community, comes off their bullshit and really becomes a place of political neutrality again. I mean, if any of those, I know a couple of those guys from that group that are still my friends are going to be listening to this, and if any of their friends are listening to it, like, it's not too late to just stop being a dickhead. You know what I mean? And like, stop acting like you know everything. Go back to everything being politically neutral in metal. Like, I get the metal's always going to be left wing to some degree, and that's fine. It's like, but it's not supposed to be anyway. It's supposed to be a politically neutral place where you can be absurd. That's kind of always what heavy metal was, like the G.G. Allen type stuff. You can do. It's supposed to be about freedom of expression, especially when you disagree with it. That's especially when it matters the most. You know what I mean? Especially when it's not something that and they've lost their way on that completely. Their heads are right up their own asses about it, and all of the new metal bands. I mean, metal's going to dry up eventually if they don't come off this dumb shit. You know what I mean? Because they need our money at the end of the day. Let's be honest. I mean, you've got this community split in two, with the content creators and the people buying the shit, and they hate us, the people buying the shit. Something's going to give eventually. You know what I mean? So it would behoove everybody if we did get along, and if we did return to a place of political neutrality, and try to just enjoy music again. That would be true.
Yeah, man, it's all about the music. It's not about all this other shit.
It should be, yeah. Instead of obeying your establishment, your particular brand of establishment, your left-wing establishment, your right-wing establishment, blah, blah, blah. Just fucking heavy metal.
Always trying to find something. I just saw something, and it's the band Ghost, whatever. But there was something on a Reddit chat, and it was like, Ghost is anti-Semitic because they have octopus, they have octopi and people with big noses or something. They didn't take photos of it because he's not letting you bring in cameras or something, but they're like, we had to leave. Ghost was blatantly anti-Semitic. I'm just
Danzig's a Nazi now too, apparently. So I never liked Danzig, so I don't have to take a stance on that.
Oh, yeah.
Every day it's like,
somebody goes, I'm really angry that I have to look up why octopi is anti-Semitic.
Welcome to 2025. Yep. Everything's racist, okay?
Yep.
Hey.
But yeah, they try to find a problem with everything. The left wing community. There's no joy. There's none whatsoever.
The most unfun people left on the planet right now, and it's I hope they get help. I hope they get better. I don't want it to be like this. I don't like every time I pick up my guitar, I think about how much I hate half of the metal community, or more, half or more of the metal community. It's a weird place to be mentally, where it used to be all we love, and it's just, I hate it. Honestly, I wish people would just get back to being people.
Yeah, like it gives credence, like back in the day when they were talking about how Ozzy, not that this is not, I don't agree with this, but they Ozzy with that song Suicide Solution, and like they were like, we went to an Ozzy Osbourne concert, there wasn't a smile on anybody's faces. Like that's what this is actually turning into though in real life.
Oh yeah,
you used to laugh at that comment and go, well, we have a good time at metal shows, we have a good time at Ozzy shows. What the hell are they talking about?
The modern left has turned into the 80s Christians in terms of censorship and anti, the fun police essentially, which is, again, while I have some reservations of Christianity making a comeback, because it's just going to flip-flop back to the 80s. We're just going to keep flip-flopping, to different groups of people censoring each other. We wish we would just fucking stop, just stop. But as long as nobody's harming kids, and that's where you draw the line. Nothing bad with kids, and then everything else is on the table. That's my opinion. Like, you got to protect the children. Everything else is kind of just get over yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of going down that rabbit hole there just for a minute. I got to thinking about something. That song, Symphony of Destruction by Megadeth.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, so how the video, I guess you've probably seen the video for that, right?
Oh yeah. It's been a while.
So imagine taking that guy that was in that video, right? And put like Joe Biden in his place. I bet you there'd be some people freaking out, be like, Dave Mustaine, we gotta hang him from the battlements, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's so, it's like, what? I'm like, but the same people that was saying that love that video, 20 years ago or 30 years ago when it come out, but now you got Joe Biden's face on it. Now you want to be a bunch of assholes about it. And I'm like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, y'all a bunch of poser ass fuckers is what you are.
They don't even like Joe Biden either. They're so allegiant to the cult. Like, there's plenty of derision in the left, but they're so like, they will not come off of their like political party line. Like, no matter how much they hate their own political party, it's so weird.
But you're not wrong about that. They were picking on Joe Biden too. They're like, you were racist, Joe Biden, like when he was running, and that was Kamala.
But now it's fine that he's racist because he's our racist,
with Kamala, she's like, you voted against me, like with the busing thing or whatever, and it's like, you were racist, and he's like, oh, like, and it's just like, what the. And then they're like, okay, well, let's put you. Well, since I voted against you, I'll make you my vice president. And, like, she was, then, like, that whole this, they act like this whole shit with the election, but last time, it wasn't rigged. But they were trying to rig this one too because nobody voted for Kamala in the primaries.
Right.
Is anybody paying attention?
I know.
I have no doubt that the election was won by like 15 points or more. The whole too big to rig thing is the only way you can win elections now. Like, we are not a tiny majority anymore. We are a massive majority in this country, and they're scrambling. That's all they're trying to do now is to convince us that it's just 2% of more conservatives right now. It's not, but that's what they want us to know. But whenever we win anything, it's just barely. It's just like 1%. Like, no. I don't believe that for a second, especially after what we saw in 2020. There's no way that we didn't win by like 30, maybe 30, 40 points. Who fucking knows? But they got all the media machines. So they can tell us whatever they want to tell us about, what the results are. So we just have to kind of suck it down, I guess. I don't know. But
have either of you watched the news today for in New Jersey?
I stay away from the news.
In New Jersey, the Newark Mayor stormed the ICE facility and was arrested.
Nice. What a dumbass.
He's a hero. No.
Yeah,
anti-ICE, man. Yeah.
There's some press conference.
He's free. He should be free too. That's gonna be the thing. Like, now they'll try to side with John Schaeffer to get him free. Like, yeah, John Schaeffer got free, so now he should be free. Yeah. Fucking.
But like, he stormed. All I'm saying is that the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, stormed a government facility today. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know?
Hell, I'm kind of ready for go in there, cause some destruction. Go there and get ready to government building. Crazy.
Hey, let's start a band called Ice Agent.
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh yeah, right. I didn't think the connection there.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Ice Stars Must Die.
Yeah, we must get them. Yes. We will bring them down.
I had fun going to Hell's Heroes last year with all my ice. I wore Ice Stars shirts every single day, and I got more ugly looks than I've ever seen them. Then I get more ugly looks from my own metal community now than walking down the street in Appomattox, with all these country folks. They're used to seeing me, but you get on a metal show with this, and it's like you got a dick growing out of your forehead or something. The way they look at you, it's freaking hilarious, though.
Well, you know how it is, man. A lot of metal fans have just become posers now. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like you're not real. Like, I hate to say this, dude, but I think a lot of the true metal fans died out like years ago, man. Like now it's just all this crap. It's I don't know, dude. It's gotten crazy, man. It's where well, you gotta think about something, and this is kind of going off topic, but it's not in a way. Okay, that's just like I heard Eddie Trunk say something one time, right? He was talking about it. For those of you who don't know, Metallica is reissuing their Load album in that box set like they've been doing for the last few years now. Okay,
that money.
So yeah. Well, the thing is, right, like Eddie Trunk said something and it made perfect sense. And I didn't realize this till a few years ago when he said it, right? He said, if you would have took Metallica, okay, they would have kept their image they had from the Black Album with the long hair, all that stuff, most of their clothes when they went on stage, they were all dressed in black and stuff like that. He said, if they would have kept that image and they would have brought it over the Load, right? He said people wouldn't have hated that album as much as they do. They would have embraced it at least. He said the problem was they cut their hair, they changed their image, and people couldn't stand it, so they wouldn't give that album any kind of love at all. He said, but if you would have took that album, like you said, and you would have kept that Black Album look, the Black Album kind of attitude, and you'd have threw it into that record, people would have called it the second Black Album. That's what they would have done.
There still would have been haters. It definitely would have went over better because image matters a lot in the metal community, and honestly, it always has. That's kind of a dirty little secret, but everyone cares about their how their patches are lined up and all those little details. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, but like it is ridiculous when you won't listen to a band because of like the art style or and that does exist.
Well, here's the thing, though, dude. I mean, I understand why people got upset. I get it, right?
Yeah.
But that's just like if you've noticed something, like 90% of the rock stars that were huge in that era that are still around, still doing something. I'd willing to say 85% of them have short hair now, right? Okay. Yeah. So what is the big deal? I mean, my whole thing is like, and a lot of those guys now are married and got kids and everything. And hell, some of them probably even
what if they're balding or something?
Yeah. And my thing is like some of them try to drive minivans now because they got kids and shit. Right. So does that make you like, does that hurt your image? Because, oh man, but here I am going down the road with a baby seat in the back of my minivan. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what the hell? I mean, it's like,
it's all
you guys
image.
ever see Corpse Grinder? He's got like all the stuffed animals and.
Yeah, it's like
he's my spirit animal as like a person behind the scenes. I feel like I'm a lot like him. I'm not really all that metal in my personality. I'm just kind of a goofy gamer with my kids and we're always going to get plushies at GameStop and all. Just not extremely metal in our daily lives, but
yeah, like Like if you look at that, it's just like he's donating plushies and doing shit for
Yeah, I
kids.
love that. I love that
You know,
about it.
if you look at my wall back there, it's so diverse that it's like it's crazy. I mean, part of my wall's got like bull riding stuff on it, and the half of it's got Edgar Allan Poe, and the other half has got like one picture I've got of like Justin Moore, and one of them's like Texas Hippie Coalition. So it's kind of like, you know, so does that make me a poser because I like different shit?
No, you only listen to shit because somebody else is going to say, you know what I mean? Like if you don't listen to Texas Hippie because of what I think that makes you a poser. Because now you're picking your music based on what I think you should listen to, which is stupid.
Yeah.
A lot of them think like that. There are free and I started this in the circles that I ran considered like pop metal basically. And I've gotten shit from the more, you know, gatekeeper types. You know, you're supposed to listen to Atlantean Codex, and you're supposed to listen to Riot City, and that's what you're supposed to listen. Like, I didn't grow up with those bands. I don't care about them. You know, they're not bad, they're great bands, but you know, maybe it's an age difference. I don't know. I don't have to listen to anything. You know.
Yeah.
Every time I get my age, I mean, every once in a while, you know, I'll find something that I really like, but you know, I think it's just that's a young man's thing, anyways, too. And they're like in their 20s and teens that. They want everyone to fit together because it's the insecurity. Everyone's insecure and young, and as you get older, you realize that shit's just whatever, you know.
Yeah.
All they're trying to do is get laid in their own world, and eventually they're going to leave you for that anyway. It's nature, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, I hate to say this, man, and I'm going and you know, some people might dog me for saying this, but I think a lot of image of metal has kind of backed itself into a corner, man, because, you know, it's like, okay, you got metal and you've got like all these subgenres of metal. I mean, you've got, you know, I'd say 10, 15, 20 different subgenres of metal or whatever.
It's like
it is. I mean, it's a bunch of
like the official.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is like, you know, why does it matter as long as you support the metal community? You know what I'm saying? That's the way I look at it. I mean, because I'm diverse when it comes to a lot of stuff because I listen to stuff like, you know, Camelot and Nightwish. And you know what I'm saying? I listen to what's another one I've got over there? Got like Manowar over there. I've got, you know, just different stuff. Hammerfall, you know, just I like a lot of different stuff. It doesn't, you know, it's like one of those things. It's like my country music. I'm not crazy about pop country. I can't stand it, but you know, it's like one of those things. Was it's like because I'm a huge Waylon Jennings fan anyway, but still, you know, it's just like. Well, damn, like some people's like, well, you're only supposed to listen to this right here, or you're not a true fan. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not a true fan then. Damn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my wife, she's been trying to get me on the country for a while. And I've got those old metal biases, which I still like a little bit of it, but I'm almost at the age where like going back and listening to new stuff now, it's hard for me to change gears, but
yeah, sure.
But see, honestly though, I'm sorry.
That's kind of in between country and metal.
I'm gonna say this, and I think reason why, like, see, when I grew up, like my folks listened to that old kind of like outlaw stuff, like Waylon and Willie and Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash and stuff like that, right? So if you kind of look at it, man, and in their imagery, them guys were kind of metal, even though they were country. You know what I'm saying? In a way, I mean, you got to think about Waylon Jennings played bass for what's his name there, Buddy Holly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it was like, you know, it's almost he was actually a rock and roll guy before he was ever country. So it's one of those things where it's like, you know. It kind of mixes with it if you really want to look at it, because I mean,
it connects all that stuff. Blues is a big country and metal and all that. So, and a lot of music is just presentation. The genre difference even between country and metal is a lot of the distortion or just how you're presenting, how your box art looks, and you know, some twang on your voice or not. You know, there's very little actual difference between genres. It's really a lot of our perception of what this music is selling us essentially as an image.
I know, right?
My friends, my friend, like one of my best friends, ex-husband. This is probably why he's like her ex-husband, possibly. Who knows? But he like looked at us one day and we were like listening to Cream, like Eric Clapton and Cream, and he goes, "You guys don't listen to any blues derivative music." And I'm like,
Pretty much all music is
I was like, that's all Cream is blues derivative music. What the hell is going on? Like, you know, I don't know, but everything comes from the blues and the jazz and the
It's such an important time for us musically, yeah, for sure.
People are nuts.
Well, if you really think of it, the basis of rock and roll is blues.
Right. I mean, in rock and roll and metal, that's almost like two sides of the same coin, really.
Yeah.
Rock gave birth to metal, and blues gave birth to rock, and all that stuff. It's all pretty. I try not to get too elitist about anything because it's like I said, it's all pretty much the same at the end of the day. It's just a matter of what message you prefer to receive. What do you like to be sold in terms of image? Like a biker tough guy or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of it we end up selling what genre we like is this the image they're selling us of being a tough guy or being a sensitive man or whatever it is.
Everybody liked the biker tough guy, and then it ended up being Rob Halford.
Right. If you're a biker, you're either a racist or you're gay.
I'm really fitting to throw crazy when in y'all things. You know what I want to hear in metal?
What's that?
Some fiddle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've heard there's been a metal cover of Devil Went Down to Georgia. I think I heard that on Guitar Hero. That was dope as hell, man.
But the only thing I don't like about that, right, is they play the fiddle part on guitar. I actually want to see a metal band actually do that song and actually do with the fiddles and stuff. That would be really killer.
I thought they had played it on fiddle. I haven't played Guitar Hero in forever, but in my brain it's like fiddle in my head, anyways.
most of the bands that do that, they play the fiddle part on guitar.
Just a sound dub or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't place whether or not the Primus version has a fiddle on it or not. I'll have to listen to it and let you know, Bill.
Okay.
Because the Primus does a killer version of it too.
Yeah.
Maybe he does it on the bass, He
probably would, yeah.
He did Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson, and he did the flute part on bass. I was like, what the hell? What?
That's a weird I need to look that up. I haven't heard that. That's wild.
Yeah, he does it with John Lennon's son in a band called Claypool Lennon Delirium. They did, and it's like there's a live take of it, and it's so weird. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, just thanks for having me on, guys, and get a chance to how much I love my John, I love my Ice Dirt, love my heavy metal.
There you go, man.
I hope the free speech movement in the metal community grows. It's one of the reasons I wanted to come on here is, we're probably gonna have to grow our own group from scratch. As a community, just even if I might pick on somebody online, we're still on the same team. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to agree. Right. Like we do need to come together and really support political neutrality. And not necessarily cut out leftists, but like if you're going to be that kind of a leftist, or even that kind of a right winger, if you're not going to, if you're not going to be politically neutral in a musical environment, then rock.
Yeah, and you're right. We are all on the same team, and I've always explained that to people. I'm like, just leave them alone. They're passionate about John. So what if they don't like? They don't like Steu, or they're mad at Luke, or they're mad at Jake, or they're mad at Hansi, or they've changed their mind. Everybody just loves John, and everybody is just standing up for John. So we all are on the same team.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I just I wanted to throw in one thing, and it's really not music related, but to a certain extent, what we're talking about is that was like a few years ago, back in 2021, when the Atlanta Braves won the World Series, right? That year they were supposed to have had the All-Star game in Atlanta, right? But because Atlanta had voted to where you had to have a voter ID to vote, the commissioner of the baseball league, the MLB, decided to take the All-Star game away from Atlanta, right? And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, first of all, who gives a shit what the city of Atlanta does? I could give a damn, right? Okay. The thing that got me was why are you sitting here punishing people and punishing people that want to see that game in the All-Star game because something that's not related to baseball. I could have understand if Atlanta, the team, had done something and it brought shame to Major League Baseball, and they're like, hey, we're going to take the All-Star game away from your city because of this and take it somewhere else. I could see that. I could actually be like, hey, you did what you did, you deserve it. But no, it had nothing to do with baseball whatsoever, but yet you had to take and put politics in it. And that's what I'm kind of saying with music now. It's like people are taking and putting their politics in you got these celebrities and these musicians out here they're running them out. Just shut up, play your damn music,
right,
and keep your politics and your beliefs to your damn self. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. One thing I would counter on that is I personally don't mind if they express their politics. It's just the inability to tolerate anybody else's counter opinion to theirs. That's really, to me, like, I should be able to tell you whatever I believe, and you can tell me whatever you believe, but we don't have to punch each other in the face about it. Like, we've had no future here tonight, but it's not like, I don't understand at what point did we decide that our opinions are so valuable that we could not be friends anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we have so little control over anything anyways. Any of this stuff happening is almost none of it has anything to do with our daily lives, and we've internalized it to make ourselves feel important or something, that we have to not talk to these others because they're gonna, it's all, probably by design. If we had to be honest, like, they don't want people to get along. They don't want us being friends. They don't want us, and that's really my dream at the end of the day, is that, and I'm sure a lot of us, I'm tired of this, and I want to get back to some level of sanity where we can just be free and it'd be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
I agree.
It won't ever happen anymore in my lifetime, but maybe.
That was a great thing to end on, I think. So, thank you guys for being, thank you, Sam, for being here. And thank you, Bill, for always being here by my side. And I love you guys. And I'll see you guys soon. And Ice Earth forever.
All right. Y'all take care.
Yep. Take it easy.